Good evening and welcome to the Town Hall on Race and Racism as organized by the Anti-Racism Task Force, convened by the Momentum Center. I'm Barbara Lee Van Horsen. I am the experimenter at the Momentum Center, a grassroots movement to create a stigma-free community. And I'm so grateful for your being here tonight. On the screen, you see before you the logos of all of the organizations that make up the Anti-Racism Task Force. And I ask that you express your gratitude for their support of these important conversations. I do have to share a warning. It is possible for us to be Zoom bombed. It has happened before. We have all of the safeguards we can have in place to prevent that from happening. But because it's a public conversation, there's no way to make it 100% foolproof. So what we have are people ready to escort people out of the room if anybody shows up and is a bad actor. So we will address that immediately. But I do need to just provide that warning because it can be traumatic to have that experience. Again, this is your Anti-Racism Task Force, and our topic tonight are organizations that are addressing racism. But we've been doing a lot of things in addition to having the town hall meetings, and we're just concluding our second year of virtual meetings on race and racism. We've also put together a very robust and interactive resource list and recommend that you look at that and look for resources there. We have a community book club that's led by Wes McGee. On our webpage, we've added reflection and action buttons, some of that modeled after the work of A Long Talk, which you'll be hearing about today. We've been supporting county DEI initiatives. We've created window clings, the graphics that you see on your screen now, which can be put in your business or your home windows. We also have led workshops on retaining relationships. We've done that for adults and for teens. We've had a presence at the Hispanic Heritage Festival, and we completed our first civil rights road trip just a couple of weeks ago, and we're looking at November to have our next civil rights road trip. So make sure you let us know if you're interested in that. We're working with the Kauffman Institute to have a conference on religion and racism this fall, and many other programs are currently in the works. I'd like to begin by sharing the county's DEI statement.
Reconocemos la importancia de la diversidad, la equidad y la inclusión en el logro de nuestra misión y lo consideramos un valor básico para involucrarnos de manera proactiva y comprender una variedad de perspectivas a través de todas las diferencias humanas. Buscamos asegurar un trato respetuoso y justo y el mismo acceso a oportunidades y recursos para que todas las personas puedan prosperar y alcanzar su máximo potencial. Creemos que la voz de cada persona agrega valor.
We recognize the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion in the accomplishment of our mission, and we hold it as a basic value to proactively engage and understand a variety of perspectives across all human differences. We seek to ensure respectful, fair treatment, and full, equal access to opportunities and resources so all people may thrive and achieve their full potential. We believe every person's voice adds value.
And as we begin our time together, we pause to acknowledge the land on which we gather. We recognize the people of the three fires, the Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples, on whose land we are gathered. The three fires people are indigenous to this land, which means that this is their ancestral territory. Every university, congregation, institution, business, and monument here in West Michigan is built on stolen native land. We also recognize that the Grand River that flows through this land remains home to many Native American tribal communities across the region, including the people of the Three Fires. We are guests on their land, using their water. And one way to practice right relations is to develop genuine ways to acknowledge the histories and traditions of the people who originated here first, who are still here, and who tend to the land and water always. As we make this land and water acknowledgement, we know it is but an important first step, and that there are many more that we need to take when we decide to engage in the important work of social justice and equity. Again, our topic tonight is organizations confronting racism, and soon we will hear from our speakers, who include Kyle Williams from A Long Talk, Karen Forbes from the Tri-Cities Puentes Initiative, and hopefully Floyd Cook Jr. from Muskegon NAACP. We believe there might be some technical issues because Floyd hasn't joined us yet, but we're crossing our fingers that he will be here on time to address us all. This is how the town hall works. If you haven't been here before, we start with welcome, some instructions, an initial polling question or two, and then we hear from our panelists. After they speak, we have a period of question and answer so that you have an opportunity to ask questions directly. And then we go into our breakout sessions, our small group conversations. We report out, have some final polling, and talk about next steps. A few instructions. One is that we ask that you stay on mute unless you're asked to unmute yourself. And we ask if it's possible to turn your camera on. We work hard to build a community that feels safe for people, and people feel more safe when they can see the people they're talking to. We also understand that that's not always possible, and we would rather have you in the conversation and not see your face than not have you engaged at all. But if you can turn on your camera, please do. Closed captioning is available. You can turn your subtitles on. We ask that you submit any questions or comments that you might have through the night in the chat box. To participate in the breakout sessions, you do need to have the Zoom app downloaded on your computer or your phone. You can't access the breakout sessions just from the online application. So hopefully you've downloaded Zoom ahead of time. And again, in the breakout sessions, that's where it's most important to have your camera on when we have those really small, intimate conversations. In terms of next steps, we are recording the event this evening, and we will make that available, as well as slides and any other resources that are shared. We'll send that out in a packet. Our goal is always to have that to you by the end of the week. In addition, the Anti-Racism Task Force will be meeting tomorrow to debrief this exchange and to look to identify other action steps we might be able to take. Finally, I want to talk about our communication guidelines and ground rules. The first one is honesty. We don't get together to debate who's right and who's wrong, but to listen to each other, to share our honest experiences and beliefs, and be willing to listen to the experiences and beliefs of others. Equality. We do have speakers that come and have incredible knowledge and insight to share with us, but all of us are equal and valuable contributors to the conversation. Respect. All of us have preconceived ideas, and they can get in the way of our listening to each other. So we want to be aware of that so we can remain respectful to each other and to ourselves at all times. We want to challenge ourselves to practice active listening, which can be particularly challenging in a virtual environment, but we really want to give our attention to who's speaking rather than thinking about what we might want to say next. We want to take responsibility for our words and our emotions. All of us have hot buttons, and they can get triggered unintentionally. So if that happens, we want to be able to name it without blaming somebody for it. And finally, shame-free zone. Shame never leads to positive change. It only pushes things further down. So we work hard to create a place where we can ask the questions and maybe stumble and be allowed to learn in the process without being shamed for where we're coming from, what we've thought, what we say. It's really important that we provide that, again, safe and brave space for everybody in the conversation. We come from different places, different perspectives, and we want to provide for the opportunity for us all to grow in relationship. So if you are fine with those communication rules, then we're excited to move to the next step. If there's anybody that thinks that they would have a hard time following these guidelines, then this is probably a good time to leave the meeting and come back again when you're in a place where these ground rules make more sense to you. Do have a pre-polling question to put up. 2 questions, but they're in the same poll. The first is, how confident are you talking about racism on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is that you have no confidence whatsoever, and 10 is that you're completely confident. And then the second question is about how present racism is in our community, from not at all to always. And if you need to answer both questions and then hit the submit button for those to be recorded. So we're going to give you just a moment to answer those questions. And about 10 more seconds. I'm going to close it in 4, 3, 2, 1. So to just show you the results, people on the call today are between a 6 and a 10 in their comfort level, talking about race and racism. And most of the people on the call today believe that racism is a systemic issue, and the others see it as a regularly occurring issue. And with that, we will move on to the speaker portion. I want to introduce Kyle Williams from A Long Talk. I'm not going to use up his time. I will let him introduce himself and his work, but I do want to say we have partnered with A Long Talk. We've had a lot of requests from people who have come into our town halls asking about how to take this deeper, how to have this kind of conversation with people in their family or their workplace or their neighborhood. And so we found A Long Talk as kind of an extension or a place that we could funnel and channel people to deepen their engagement and experience. So very, very excited to hopefully introduce A Long Talk to some of you who haven't had that experience yet. Kyle, if you would unmute yourself, you have the next 10 minutes.
All right, thank you, thank you. I also have Kamal in here. I wasn't sure if Kamal wanted to say anything, but Kamal, okay, I'm gonna go with it. All right. But thank you guys. Thank you for inviting me here to talk. I want to just share with you the story of how I got here. And if I can, let me just grab the screen for a second. Oops. Okay. But basically, we are a long talk about the uncomfortable truth. And let me actually back up. Let me start with this. My children hired me for this. So when I say that, you know, when George Floyd was murdered, I live in Washington, D.C. And I have 3 sons, 2 college-age sons and a 10th grader. And when George Floyd was murdered, they wanted to go down to the protest. And their mother didn't want them to go. It was, you know, COVID and rubber bullets and flashbangs, and it was wild out there. It was the first weekend after he was killed. And so I went down there to protect my children. So I went down to the protest with them, and we spent about 5 hours out there. It was powerful, it was emotional, it was dangerous, it was everything. And as we drove home, we live about 20 minutes from the White House. And my middle son, Elijah, just broke the silence of the ride home, just started cursing loudly, like angrily. I asked him what was wrong. And as we're pulling into the house, he's showing me that on his phone, that everything he posted throughout the day while he was protesting, his college basketball teammate, he played college and basketball, his captain actually on his team, his white senior captain, my son was a freshman, was reposting Tucker Carlson and Fox News links under everything he had posted about his experiences throughout that day. And he was confused because he had never talked to this kid about race or politics before. He didn't They had never had a problem before. He didn't understand why this kid was reaching out to him like this. So he texted the kid to ask him a question, and the kid just doubled down. Like, be careful with the looters, bro. We need you at practice. At this point now, my son is enraged. He starts to text him back and forth, and I'm being a little old school. I was like, maybe there's something lost in translation with texting. Call him. Just pick up the phone and call him. Well, that backfired because they FaceTimed each other. And within about 2 minutes, there was a literal FaceTime fight happening right here in my kitchen. Like back and forth to where finally my oldest son leaned into the phone and said, on site when I see you, be ready to defend yourself, and hung up the phone. That's what was happening at the moment. And I wasn't going to stop it because the things that kid was saying as he tripled down on this ignorance had to be challenged. And for whatever reason, he decided to share that it was not going to happen with my children that night. And I wasn't going to stop them, but I thought about the coach who was stuck in the middle of that argument and didn't even know about it. A white guy who I kind of liked, BJ Dunn. He was my son's basketball coach. He recruited my child, and I trusted him with my son. And I texted Coach Dunn. I said, Coach, you got a problem. I knew that those kids were going to be on a Zoom call the very next day. And I said, Coach, you got a problem on this Zoom call tomorrow. You should probably call me before the call. And when he called me, well, I said, call me tomorrow, because I had just spent 5 hours of protest and an hour going through that. He called me right back. And so my phone is ringing, and I see the name of this white man who I've never talked to before about race or politics or anything, just basketball. And I said, if I answer this phone, I didn't know where it was going to go. But I said, you know what? Let me answer the phone. I said, Coach, he said, Coach, he said, is it a good time to talk? I said, it's absolutely not. In my head, I'm like, no, it's not a good time to talk, but you called, so let's talk. And I said, Coach, he started talking about George Floyd. I said, Coach, I'm not mad about George Floyd. I haven't watched that video. I'm not watching that. I had no space for me to watch that. I don't know how y'all are doing that. I know how it ends. I'm not watching that video. I said, it kind of confused him because he didn't understand what I was, everybody was mad about George Floyd. I said, Coach, I'm mad about the 400 years that have led up to this video. I'm mad because in the next 30 days, there's going to be another George Floyd, and you're not even going to know his name. And I'm mad because as a white man, I don't think you're going to do anything about this anyway. So do you still want to talk to me? And in that moment, he decided to listen. And for about 10 minutes, I tried to explain to him my anger, my pain, my frustration, my lack of expectation, my fear for my child. Because you sat on my couch and told me he was going to be safe at Gettysburg College, but you picked a captain who's not making it safe. And my son's not going to make it safe for anybody because my son's not built to just back down from that. I said, so as I tried to explain to him, I realized he cared about my kid. He really did. But he had no idea about the facts and these things I was trying to explain to him about. He had no idea. He had no idea about redlining. He had no idea about the GI Bill. He had no idea about the Tuskegee Airmen or the Tuskegee experiments, anything. I said, you know what, Coach? I said, if you want to understand this, you need to watch this video. And so I sent him a link to this video called The History of Race in America, this lawyer who's talking to some other lawyers and explaining exactly what has happened in this country. And after watching this 80-minute video, he called me back and he turned into an immediate anti-racist, immediately. Because he saw this truth and he realized, I got to do something. That's when he called me back and he said, I didn't understand it. I didn't know what I got it now. I don't know how I missed it. I'm going to do something. I said, okay, Coach. And he said, you know what I'm going to do the first thing? I'm going to spend my money with Black businesses. It's not going to fix everything, but Gettysburg basketball, we've never supported Black businesses because no one's ever done it intentionally. I'm going to do that. No one can stop me. I'm going to do that. It's a little chip in the water, but I can do that. I said, okay, Coach, thanks. I never even heard anything like that before. The next day, he said, you know what? I'm not done there. He said, I'm gonna do something else, Kyle. I'm gonna start. He said, I found out we had a DEI program. And he went down to the DEI meeting and he said, you know what? We got to fix this because there's only one woman that's been working there for 6 years in this DEI program. She's the chief diversity officer of nothing. And so he started working with the other teams and started putting pressure on the university. They hired 2.5 people now, full-time in the staff, but now he has every single team has people that work with him, that work with anything the DEI department is doing. He just started that immediately. I didn't need him to put a sign up on the wall. I needed him to do something to make the school safer for my son. So what did I do next? My other son plays at the University of Pennsylvania. So I said, well, why don't I find out what those coaches think? So I sent the video to those coaches. I said, I need you to watch this video and call me back. And Nat Graham, one of the coaches actually called me back. And after that, he started writing articles in the Medium. He started writing 5 or 6 articles, using his voice, making the school safer for my son, because I had 2 white men around my 2 children who were willing to listen and learn and act with their voices immediately. This happened over a couple of days. And so what happened next was I decided to let everybody in America watch this video, every coach in America. And the way that I did that is I had some connections. I've been working in DC for 25 years as an educator. I had a lot of families, a lot of kids. I've also been a director of a very successful youth basketball program, one of the top ones in the country. And so back in the summer of 2020, we told every college coach in America, if you want to recruit teen takeover basketball, you want to recruit our kids, you got to come watch this video and talk to us about race in America. And so in the summer of 2020, we had over 107 coaches show up, 4 national champions, ESPN. People got on a conversation and talked about race in America so that we can help them explain. Because what we did to them is when they got on the call, I said, listen, just go back to your schools and do what BJ did. Find something you can make better. Put your name on something. Walk up in the office and fix something that makes it better for everybody else. And we challenged them to go do that. And many of them, when they went back, they had a hard time because at places like LSU and Florida and Michigan State, you had people that wanted to do this, but they hadn't seen the video. They hadn't had the conversation. So what they did is they invited us back. They said, come out and explain to our people. Tell them what you told us. And so we started talking to the schools and to understand what happened, a call that I was going to do one time. I'm in education. This was COVID, right? So I was going to have one conversation, one time to get it off my chest. But people started calling back. And now almost 2 years later, over 150 conversations, almost 6,000 people later, we've been having this same conversation based off facts, based off activating people to do something differently, to go back to your space and make a change. And that's what we've been doing. And so what this, to give you guys, and I want you to explain to you that what we're talking about, I love the platform, but what we're talking about is an opportunity. It's a movement that is picking up. And I want to explain to you the process because it's not a one-time conversation. It's a learning process, if I say it that way. Let me tell you this. First of all, to join a long talk, you have to go through the pre-work. You have to sit down and before you even get on our call, you need to spend some time and go through some information. And so we have our conversations every single month. We'll tell you more about that later, but this was our May one. But I'll go through this quickly, but it just gives you the purpose. This is a conversation. This is not a lecture or webinars. We're going to have a good conversation about how we together work through racism in America. So we talk about how we see this as a virus and we want to treat it with truth. And we're just going to keep pushing and pushing to energize and empower people that want to really plant their flags and not just say, hey, I get it, but what are we going to do about it? How are we going to change it? And those are the people that we're gathering up. And so as we go across America, that's what we're doing. As we talk to different people, we bring our perspectives to the conversation. And what we do is we ask everyone, the only thing that's mandatory about our calls is you have to watch this video. This is the history of racism in America. And this is a video that I shared with these coaches originally. And this is the key for us that unlocks a willingness to come join this conversation. I love what was said earlier about we're not arguing about racism. We had to understand it and what we can do about it. Once you watch that video and respond to it, you get access. We're going to ask you to introduce yourself on a Padlet board, but we're also going to ask you to watch other stuff. We're going to talk about white privilege. The concept is going to come up, so you might want to watch that. Again, this is not mandatory. This part of it is up to you. We're going to talk about Reconstruction. So here's some background. One of the most we are so ignorant of this time because it was never taught. We're going to talk about how that connects to the time we're in now. We're going to talk about white silence and how that aids and abets white supremacy. So we give this idea and understanding of the different pre-work. We're going to show different pieces of Dr. King that may not have been in on his birthday conversations. We talk about white fragility, how that stops this conversation. Two different Americas. overt and covert racism. These are 2-3 minute clips you can get. We're going to give you 2 weeks before you even join the call. Our June call is the 9th. It's already open now. We're going to even ask you to go through our social media, even listen to some music. Listen to this conversation. Listen to what's been said for decades, to hear a different voice, to see if now you hear some of these songs with a different set of ears, if you watch some of the videos with a different set of eyes, right? To get empathy and information to go along with this. We ask 3 questions of whatever people do on the pre-work. The first question we ask is, what are your new learnings? What do you want to highlight? The second question we ask, or what do you have questions about? And the third question, just ask, what would a racist argument be about this material? We want all that stuff to come up before you even join the call. So by the time you get to the call, you're ready for this conversation. Whoops.
Thank you.
All right. And so is my time up?
It is, but we haven't had Floyd, so take 1 more minute and then we'll hear from Karen, okay?
Yep. What I want to share is that after you finish the conversation, and just to show you guys, our conversation are 2-hour conversations. We've had them with this is just since January. Some of the organizations that we've had this conversation with. We do a lot of work at the university level. We do have this community conversation every single month, and so people stay connected after the conversation. We're not just having an uncomfortable conversation. It's now, how do we activate? So all these different groups, when they come through here, all the materials are in there, everything they're able to do, all the materials are here. We have these deep dive topics. We have action steps that people can take. It's an active learning community. So if you're looking for something to actually get involved, boots on the ground, that's why we've been brought out to your organization, because we hear there's some people that are really about doing some good work out there. And so that's why we love connecting with you guys and staying connected with the work. So thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Kyle, for the work you're doing and for your enthusiasm and passion for that work. Please, if you have questions for Kyle and Kamel, please put them in the chat, and any question is welcome. And I want to introduce now, so Kyle and Along Talk are working nationally. And it's really exciting to be part of and to be in relationship with them. There's also a lot of exciting things happening locally and ways that we can get involved right in our own backyard. And Karen Forbes has information on some of those things as she talks to us about the Tri-Cities Fuentes Initiative. So Karen, if you would unmute yourself, you have the floor.
There we go. Hi, everyone. My name is my name is Karen Alondra, but Karen Forbes. I'm known as Karen Forbes in my local community. I am the owner of Berserk Brewing Company in Grand Haven, but I'm not here to talk about beer today. So I'm one of the newest additions, a board member of the Tri-Cities Puentes Initiative. And I am just so honored and humbled to be here with everyone. And I just have to go back and say, Kyle, I was about to, your passion was about to make me cry. It was amazing. Thank you so much. That was great. This is a subject that really passions me. And so a little bit about my background. I was born and raised in Mexico, and I've only been here 10 years. So please bear with me with my English. I will try to be as clear and as eloquent as possible. So the Tri-Cities Puentes Initiative, I wish I could give myself some credit for participation in the founding of this organization, but I can't. I recently joined. The credit has to be given to Father Jared. You guys saw him speaking and reading a statement in Spanish, and other members of St. John's Episcopal Church here in Grand Haven. The members got together and they just talked about having this fiesta, this party to embrace, to highlight the Hispanic culture, the heritage in our community. And yeah, what started with just the party, with the fiesta, is now this year finally approved as a 501c nonprofit organization. And we are continuing to expand and do as much work as we can to help. The vision of the Tri-Cities Puentes Initiative is to create a healthy, a united and inclusive, equitable and diverse community. By spreading culture, understanding, and celebrating Hispanic heritage, we hope that we can build bridges with the Hispanic community in our area and all the residents of the Tri-Cities area. So I can talk a little bit more of the fiesta first, tell you a little bit of what is the fiesta and what comes out of the fiesta. It's a week long of a combination of events that highlights Hispanic culture, and it's celebrated this year. It's from September 16th, September 24th. We have a Friday night concert in the Waterfront Stadium in Grand Haven, honoring in Hispanic artists. We have a restaurant week from September 19th to 24th, and local restaurants in our area pick a dish to highlight from a country, from a Latin country of their choice. And we have a community dinner, which is our fundraiser event as well, where we feature Hispanic food presented by Mexico Restaurant in Grand Rapids. We have live mariachi performing while guests enjoy learning about the origins of the recipe and the cultural importance of the food they're having. Like I said, this is our big fundraiser event too. And September 24th, there's an opening ceremony with a parade of flags in the street. This is in the early in the morning, and then followed by the fiesta all day in the park with kids activities, live performances, featuring local Hispanic artists and musicians. There is food vendors serving their authentic cuisines. So the Hispanic Heritage Fiesta Project, we want to highlight the Latin American cultures and all the rich variety of traditions, of foods that we contribute, and we pay a tribute to generations of Hispanic Americans who have positively influenced and enriched our nation and society. With such funds that we raise by the fiesta, we have been able to provide some financial support to local organizations in our area that make a concrete positive difference in the life of Hispanic people right here in Western Michigan. So this is the subject that I want to talk about that's deepest to my heart. The latest accomplishment of the TCPI has been the inauguration, or it's a collaboration with Ferris State University, and it's the inauguration launch of the Líderes program in the Lakeshore area. Líderes is a leadership program designed to support Latin American professionals as they pursue their individual career and life goals. And I am proud to say that I was one of the inaugural fortunate graduates of the Líderes Lakeshore 2020-2021. So how is directly this confronting, or Tri-Cities Puentes initiative confronting or fighting racism or making an impact? What I feel is really important is that we have to look back into the roots of racism. Systemic oppression has been one of the major causes of social inequity. So by educating and building leaders in the Hispanic community and promoting these leaders to take part of local government, be part of businesses in our area, then we will have a significant social and economic and political advantage as minorities. And if I could share a little bit of what my experience has been with all this, the TCPI with the Líderes program. I don't know where to start. I don't even remember how it started. I think I was recruited as a volunteer by the committee of the Fiesta last year, and it had such a huge impact in me, and it really inspired me. It touched something really deep in my heart. Of course, as a BIPOC person, I have been a victim of racism, and I've always been against racism, and racism hurts. It hurts me, but I wasn't standing up. I wasn't fighting it. I wasn't saying anything. And with this invitation from the Tri-Cities Puentes and then the Líderes program that I took, it really awakened my activism. It awakened me and it inspired me to continue this journey of just continuing to try to be an active person. So how do I try, or what am I trying to do right now? It really directed my vision to challenge racism, to have, like Kyle said, those uncomfortable conversations. And I think the biggest thing right now is that, like I said, I'm just starting this journey, but I have a platform. My company is my platform. I used my company to actively voice my story, the voice of other people that had lived in oppression and that had lost their lives due to police brutality. I proudly display what we support and what we stand for. And I've been trying to get into trainings. I've been bystander challenges. I've attended these meetings in the past. I'm slowly trying to get there where Kyle is. One day I'll be there. So yeah, that's a little bit of my story, and that's all I got right now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Appreciate your personal story as well as your explanation of what the Tri-Cities Puentes is up to these days. Very grateful to both you and Kyle. I know Mary Jane will take the question portion from here. Please, if you have questions for either Kyle or Karen or both, put them in the chat, and Mary Jane will ask those, and we'll let you start, Mary Jane.
The first question is for both Kyle and for Karen, and this is the question. How can our organizations reach people who don't agree with us? We want to listen to their views, but so far, none have accepted our invitations to dinner and dialogue, listening sessions, etc. Kyle, would you start, please?
I guess my first thing is, what are you inviting them to do? To just agree with you? Like, if you get them to agree with you, what does that change in the big picture? Why don't you invite the people that agree with you to actually do something? Like, we think that the people we think that by winning this or by moving this, we convince the people that don't care or that don't want to care. When there are millions of people who care, but aren't doing anything. They're just caring and they don't know what to do or what to organize, or maybe you are doing some things and but there are other people that aren't. Right now, what I found is I'm not trying to convince anybody, and I'm not trying to make anybody who doesn't, if after 2020 and after the thing that in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. We think that if you can give someone to agree with you on the information, but if they don't match your empathy, we're wasting time because we have to save lives by getting people activated to do things. So I guess that would be, my answer to that is I would say share information with the people you really are trying to have convince. That video I show at Jeffrey Robinson, there's nothing to disagree with. They can go look it up if they want to. But I want to know what that's going to make you do. So I would say spend more time trying to, instead of convincing people, find the ones that are like-minded and find out what you can do more of and connect more like-minded people. There are hundreds of millions of non-racists in America that we need to become active anti-racists. That's the momentum for me.
Karen, do you care to add to that answer?
I can't agree anymore. I mean, I totally agree with what Kyle is saying. There's something about trying to convince people to open their eyes, and sometimes they're not going to do it no matter what you do. I think just the biggest thing is keep doing what we are doing and just being out there and doing it bigger and more public. I didn't know as a BIPOC person, there were other people that cared about people of BIPOC people and they wanted to do a huge impact. So being just recruited as a volunteer for this organization, we get to meet people and you get to network with these people and you make these connections. And the more we are together, the better we can do. So I would just keep saying, just keep showing people what we're doing, keep doing our job, and that's it.
My next question is also for both of you. If a person were to begin activism to be anti-racist, there's many different ways this could come, politically, socially, economically. Is there one way, if they're scarce, time and money, what way do you think might be the highest leverage? How should a person put the eggs in the basket to be anti-racist?
I think, I guess for me is you start where you are. So people ask me like, what do you ask them to do? I say, I have no idea what these people can do. I have no idea the connections you can make, the emails you can send, the person you can talk to to change. I don't know. I would say start wherever you are. We talk about embracing your front line. And so we talk about that, you know, in this battle right now, this is a war on ignorance. This is a movement. It's not about even about people, but we believe that racism is just about ignorance, and the truth is what will work this. And so in that front line battle, it starts in your own mind. But once you get to the place where you're ready to walk in, almost like be like a bumper car. Every place you go, you have the right to have it to be an anti-racism experience. Every place. Your kitchen table, your Thanksgiving table with the larger family, your church, your job, every place that you have the right to move with anti-racist, because I'm not having that here. So your front line is wherever you go, and wherever that takes you, that's the beauty of the lives you've lived, the people you know. We have done this conversation at Deutsche Bank on Wall Street. And we've had this, I've taught this at Wharton School of Business already. And it's not supposed to happen for a Black father with no DEI background in 20 months with a vision to be able to go do that. But because somebody knew somebody who told somebody else, who told somebody else, here we go. So I don't know what your links are to the work that's being done. But I know the more people that get engaged in the conversation, the more times when there's 31 people in here versus 131 people, the work's getting done. So we got to gather up the people to keep it moving. So.
Thank you. And Karen, as a business owner, we're interested in your perspective.
Okay, yes, I was actually going towards that. So I would say too, where to start. Like I said, as a BIPOC person, racism hurts me personally, but I had no tools. I had nothing to say to people because I've never researched. I never done trainings. So I think the biggest thing is start doing your research, start reading books. There's so many trainings out there offered to how not to be a bystander. And it really is, that's how we start, by not just being a bystander, by being an ally. That's the biggest thing. And as a business owner, like I said, I have racism happening and regularly in my business. People come in and they look at me down. They think I'm brown. They ask me, oh, the owner's treating you well, like ignorance, like I say, ignorant comments like that because I'm a brown person. And breweries are not an industry known for being a woman or minority brown people owned businesses. So it's something that actually hurts deeply, but I didn't know how to react to it. You know, I think it's just training yourself, getting out there, learning how to talk to people, being blunt about it too. I learned that for me has worked in my business. I'm an ally, and like I said, I started my activism. How do I show it? I display in my business. Whoever has been in my business knows as soon as you walk in, there's a huge Black Lives Matter and LGBTQ flag, because this is what we stand for. And that actually makes people, I have had people tell me, this is the reason I'm driving from Chicago, passing by, that I picked your business because of this, because you stand with us and we feel welcome here. So that for me has been super impactful, and continuing to do and grow in what I'm trying to do here.
Thank you, Karen. That's inspiring. So Kyle, you started to answer the question in the chat about working with churches to do a long talk. Would you like to say more about that?
Yeah, you know, I've always wondered why the churches weren't the front lines of anti-racism work in America. Like I've always, as a kid, I never understood why that wasn't a space where there was more impact. And I know there was some, but it just wasn't a hot spot for it, right, in white churches. And so I've been pleasantly surprised over the last 2 years to have met some incredible people who have come, many through our community conversations and through word of mouth. Unitarian Church up in Martha's Vineyard and in the Boston area. We're working with the Lutheran Synod, if I'm saying that right, in Pennsylvania, Catholic Church in Iowa. We're working on getting ready to go out there and doing a conference with them in November, and some other things. But so it's been, to me, it's been a pleasant surprise, I guess, for lack of a better word, but to see that the energy is there. And it's interesting because it mostly comes from an older generation of churchgoers, which is the interesting thing to me, right? And I think that some of the passion, a lot of them, you know, worked through the 60s and did some things and are now like serious. Like it's been an interesting situation, but I'm seeing it open up. We're working with the youth in the Lutheran church. So I'm excited about that because I think all we're trying to do is activate people who, just may have been on the sidelines. And I feel like if you're in church and you believe in those things, that there's some empathy we can tap into, that maybe you just didn't have the information, maybe you just didn't have the organization. But I gotta believe there's some empathy that's been kind of, where the truth has been hidden from people that are good people in the church that need to have this conversation at a deeper level so that we can get more activity coming from the churches for sure.
Thank you. The next question, let's start with Karen on this one. What have you found encouraging doing this work? And what do you do when you feel discouraged? How do you keep going?
Like I mentioned, what did I find encouraging about doing it? Finding other people, that I'm not alone, that there's other people like us trying to confront racism and put an end to it. And they're trying to, fight back in a peaceful way, of course. I'm a peace and love person as well. This encouraging, I think the biggest thing, in my case, my biggest barrier is the language issue. So for me, that was my fear, to talk. How can I explain people this in my heart, this passion that I want to transmit a message, and I don't know how to tell them. So that's still right now is like, what is my encouragement, that I don't 100% know English, but I'm trying my best to, as anywhere I go, even when I do seminars and conferences for my industry, I do the diversity, equity, and inclusion, and I do trainings everywhere I can. I try to absorb information so I'm prepared. So that has been a big thing for me, just prepare myself and keep learning and learning, so I have resources to communicate the message that I want. And I feel like I just started. There's so much more to do, and I'm just taking baby steps there.
Karen, if I could share something with you, I was at listening to a speaker. This is actually doing some other work when I was an educator, and as a woman whose second language is English. And what she did, which I thought was when she was speaking, is when she got to the passion, when she couldn't find the right passion word for what she was saying, she said it in her native language, and then she told us what she said. And for me, I thought it was so powerful because as she was talking, instead of trying to think about the word, she just said it as he would have said it, and the passion came out. And then when she explained it to us, I was like, oh, I got, like, it made it make even more sense. I don't know if that was something she trained on, but I just, as you talking, as you're thinking, you said about getting to where I am. Now it makes sense. The only thing that's stopping you is your full voice, because your story is your story. My story is my story. And that's what's moving people to action, because people have to get connected to what's going on. So I just want you, whatever you, as you can, that you're right on point as you find your voice and find those words that express your passion, because that is the next level of all of this, because that's what's cutting through all the other nonsense right now, your honesty and your passion. So sorry, guys. I'm sorry. That was just,
Thank you.
Now, what do you do when you get discouraged? Give us some tips.
Man, I think I was way more discouraged before I started doing a long talk. I spent 49 years of discouragement around this topic, because I've known about most of this stuff since I was 12 years old. I had an uncle that challenged me when I would come home with history lessons. I'm all excited about what my teacher told me. He'd be like, they lied to you. Let me show you this other stuff. So since I was 10 or 12 years old, I would get my frustration and my discouragement was, I used to look around like, how do all these white people not know? How do I know? And they don't know. I figured y'all knew everything. You're in charge of everything. So how do you not know? And if you know about this, you don't care. So my discouragement came from years of just having to be like, I just don't care. I just don't care. There's no way you don't know. So for me, when I got involved with a long talk, and I realized how much you really didn't know and how much you really did care once you knew, it's been so encouraging. I can't even put a discouraging day on the last 23 months for me, because whatever popped up that was even slightly discouraging was way better than what I was doing before this. So I was an angry person before this. I wasn't a very, I say often, I did not graduate from high school to most likely to solve societal problems of white people. That was not on the list in my bio. Because I was discouraged in many ways. I knew the truth and I understood how this country worked and I understood how people just walked along and acted like nothing was happening. So now I would say I can't, that's an unfair question because there's not much that's been discouraging to be quite honest, over the last 23 months. So.
Can I share one last little experience for that question? Yeah.
Yes.
I think so. Okay. So I do sometimes, like Kyle was mentioning, I actually sometimes, because of position or people don't people that disagree with my morals, my views, I do hit a wall sometimes, but and get a little discouraged. But then experiences happen. I recently, the beginning of May, I had a big conference for my industry, for breweries in Minneapolis. And one of the things that I told my husband, I'm like, I'm going to go to George Floyd's memorial place because it's important to me. And it was just one of those things that I got there and I couldn't hold my tears back. And some locals came out of the store where his memorial, I don't know if people had a chance to go to his memorial place, the whole block. It's amazing the job they have done there, having a whole murals everywhere. It's a beautiful memorial place. The locals came out of the store and as they saw me crying, they just hugged me. And that encouraged me again. And that's why I told myself, this is why I have to keep doing what I do. Because if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Who's going to be the voice of these people that have lost their lives? So that was a very, very inspiring, encouraging moment there again to continue to keep going.
So to paraphrase, you connect yourself in the work with the people. And it's that role that keeps you going and keeps you strong.
Yeah. And that's what separates, and honestly, that's what separates your level of work in this, to be quite honest with you, how personal it is to you. Pretty much everybody, except maybe a couple of us on here, you have the opportunity to check out of this conversation. You can get off this town hall meeting and say, that was awesome, and do nothing about anything, and your life won't change dramatically. It won't. There's a handful of us that every single day we got to wake up and keep doing it. So we have to care. The question of how active you are, how much you're doing, is how much have you shown you care every day? Like, what can I do? Can I, even if it means I'm still going to read something else or I'm going to still work on me, whatever it is. But if I'm connected to it every single day, I'm going to get emotional. I'm going to see things as every single part of this. So I just want to say for you guys, it's great to hear, Karen, and that's what drives us. Black people of color and Black people are never going to stop. Like, we're never going to stop trying to dismantle white supremacy. And so as more white people are getting on board to do that, find whatever it's going to take you to never stop. And I know many times I'm speaking to the choir. Many of you have been engaged. I'm speaking to larger masses. We have to just let people know that, or, oh my God, yeah, come on, let's go. There's a lot of work to do. Let's go. And it comes to that personal connection. So take these stories, but don't just take them for this great story that it is. Take them for inspiration to connect another dot for you to keep going.
That
Thank you
was
so much.
fantastic. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mary Jane, for facilitating that. Thank you, Kyle and Karen, for sharing. Yeah, so important. And now we have an opportunity to go into small group, which again is kind of the heart of this conversation. How do we process what we've heard? And what do we do with it? So there are facilitators in each of the groups. There might be a little bit of shuffling as we see. It's kind of a random assignment. And sometimes the rooms don't end up even. So if you get pulled out and sent to another room, don't be too disoriented by it. And I'm going to open those breakout rooms now. Okay, I believe everybody is back. Thank you for engaging in our small group conversation. And now we're going to report out. So I'll call on each of our facilitators to share one of the suggestions for action. So question number 3, just kind of a sound bite. What is one action that your group came up with? And hopefully we'll hear a variety of things and not the same thing over and over again. We're going to start with group 1 and Holly.
We had a great conversation, and Daryl and Betty were in our group, and they both have gone on the civil rights road trip. Daryl has gone twice now, it sounded like, and have already brought information back to their faith communities, and are really launching into some more in-depth action within their spheres of influence. So awesome stuff there.
Fantastic. Thank you, group 1. How about Carrie in group 2?
Yes, thank you. Basically, we decided that the most important thing is to develop allies in your work and in different organizations, and to just keep moving forward and find our voices and speak the truth. So.
Fantastic. Thank you, group number 2. How about group number 3, Mary? Not hearing you, Mary.
Sorry. Group number 3 rocks. We didn't get to question number 3 until the sign came up for 58 seconds left. So I was instructed that I should tell you that we decided in question number 1 that maybe when people say something that is racist, rather than taking umbrage, we should ask them to explain what they mean.
Yeah, thank you. Practical suggestion. Appreciate that, group 3. How about Carolyn in group 4?
Hi. Yeah, we had some robust conversation as well. Had to shorten up that question number 3, but one of the really great suggestions was having more welcoming signage around our city and communities, maybe in other languages would be really good to really embrace and make people feel welcome, just even initially by seeing something like that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Great. Group number 4. And group number 6, Monica.
We had a fantastic conversation. Thanks to everyone in my group. We really talked about educate, that if we could just educate children more on the truth of in American history instead of having to relearn it as an adult, not relearn it, but unlearn and then newly learn other parts. But we also realized that during these times right now, as we have people trying to ban books in our schools and trying to stop us from teaching the inadequate history we're currently teaching, that we really need to make sure that we're standing with our schools and with our history teachers. And so, yes, educate, but right now we also just need to stand with those educators so we can hang on to the partial history that we're currently teaching.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, group number 6. And I just want to add just the need right now as we move into another political season to be engaged, to know who's running and what their platforms are, and to encourage everybody you know to register if they haven't. And I know at the Momentum Center, we have a couple of voting drives coming up. So I encourage everybody to participate in those kind of activities. We do have some post polling now. So let me pull up our first re-question from before. And just asking now, having had this talk, how present do you think racism is in the community? And how comfortable are you talking about racism now compared to when we started? The same, more comfortable, or less comfortable? And lots of answers coming in. Leave it up for just a couple minutes, few seconds. Make sure that after you make your selection that you do hit the submit button. And I'll close it in 3, 2, 1. So ending that poll. And again, we have most of the people here seeing racism as a systemic issue. And we have 78% of the people who participated tonight feeling more comfortable talking about race and racism. So again, I think every opportunity we have to practice is wonderful at equipping us and building our confidence. So thank you all for helping each other with that. Oh, did I not hit the share results?
Right.
I
Thank you. Yeah.
apologize. So here we go. Now you can see the actual results. Just pulling that down for you. The next question is about is an evaluation of the town hall tonight. How helpful was this? Not at all. Did it help you become more aware? Did it motivate you to take action? Or did it convince you to become or continue as a leader? And this, you can actually select more than one if you'd like. And we have almost all the votes in. And I'll close it in 3, 2, 1. And this time I'll share the results. So we had 20% say it made more aware, 58% motivated to take action, and 79% convinced to become or continue as a leader. The next question is about action. So what actions are you willing to take now? And again, you can choose all of these that apply. Read, listen, watch, learn more, engage in more conversations about race and racism, engage in more conversations with people who are a different race than you, get additional training from a long talk in having uncomfortable conversations, support DEI initiatives at your school or workplace, attend implicit bias training, get involved in local government. And I don't think Karen mentioned, but Karen Forbes is part of our Human Relations Commission too for the city of Grand Haven. Donate to a group working for racial justice, join the community book club, or invite other people to these town hall meetings. Select all that apply and then hit the submit button. And I'll close it in 3, 2, 1. Ending the poll, and you can see the results. We have 89% who want to engage in more conversations, and 89% want to participate in a long talk. Yay! I couldn't be more delighted to see that. That is so helpful. Another 84%. Yeah, you see that, Kyle?
Yeah, that's great. I look forward to seeing you guys in June. Let's fill it up.
All right, in
Go right to
June.
our website.
And we will include the link to that in the packet that we send out. So excellent, excellent news. You can see the rest of the results there. And then I just have one more, and it has to do with other events and some of the planning that's going on by the Anti-Racism Task Force now. So wondering, are you interested in the conference on race and religion? Interested in a conference on Indigenous people and mental health? Training in implicit bias. This is kind of a repeat question. We just talked about that. A conference on the business case for anti-racism. Participating in that civil rights road trip. That's the trip to Birmingham, Memphis, Montgomery, and Selma. And attending a public forum on being a welcoming community. So just indicate your interest in any of those options. And again, you can select all of them that are interesting to you. And I can assure you we're looking at the fall. Summer is not a really productive time in this area to get people together, especially for virtual events. And we are hoping that these will be in-person events as we move into the fall time. We're all hoping that life returns a little bit to normal. We're going to end this poll and show you these results.
Oops.
Yep, I think my slide moved up. But you can see 79% are interested in a forum on welcoming communities, 58% in implicit bias. And I can tell you we're looking at January probably for that. The conference on race and religion will be in October. I have a meeting on the Indigenous people and mental health coming up this week. So much of this is, and we decided November will be the next civil rights road trip. So lots of good activities coming up. And I just realized I didn't hit the share again.
Okay,
So once again, I apologize.
that's okay.
I'll give you a minute to look at these numbers. And I'll stop sharing those and talk about next steps. So as I said, we're going to put together all of the materials from tonight. And there's also a video that Kyle has sent me to introduce people even more fully to the work of a long talk. That will be part of the packet. So look for that. We'll have as much information as we've generated tonight to share. And we will be meeting, as I mentioned, the Anti-Racism Task Force tomorrow to do debriefing and follow-up and to look for other opportunities for action. Oh, gads. At the website, please take a moment to hit the buttons there. One is, what have you been reading and watching, and what are your reflections? When I talk to people engaged in these conversations and elsewhere, it seems like everybody is reading or watching something. So share what is moving you, what is touching you, and why. Again, extend the community and report in action. A lot of times we can feel alone in this work. I think Karen was so articulate in sharing how helpful it's been to realize that she's not alone in this community, that a lot of people are embracing the need for a more equal and just and respectful environment for all of us. So report in action because it helps us all know we're part of something bigger. I mentioned the upcoming events, and this is just a slide with that information. And again, this will be in your packet. And I want to give a huge thank you to Kyle from A Long Talk and Karen from the Tri-Cities Puentes Initiative. So grateful. I will also reach out to Floyd, and if he has materials to share, we will include that in the packet. We hope he's doing well, sending lots of positive light and love his way, hoping that nothing adverse has happened and it was simply a scheduling conflict. Thanks to the members of the Anti-Racism Task Force, individuals and organizations. Please thank these organizations for their commitment to doing this work. And until next time, the divine in me recognizes and bows to the divine in you. Namaste.